Yes.
Hello, friends and listeners. Welcome to Mind Power Meets Mystic. I'm Michelle Walters. I'm the Mind Power part of our program, and I am joined by my podcast pal and buddy, Cynthia Varkevisser. She is our show Mystic. We are excited to be continuing our chakra series this week, and we have a special guest with us today. Dr. Theresa Myers brings over 20 years of physician experience to her telehealth practice called Inner Rhythm Health. She specializes in metabolic health, midlife women's health, and personalized bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Central to her practice is circadian rhythm entrainment, aligning biological rhythms with natural cycles through targeted lifestyle interventions and hormone optimization. Her medical services are tailored to each patient's individualized needs through a collaborative approach that helps clarify and achieve personal health goals. This integrative approach combines traditional medical expertise with innovative modalities, including compassion based emotional regulation techniques, addressing both physical and emotional well being through comprehensive collaborative care. Welcome, Dr. Theresa.
Thank you. So good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am so intrigued by your work and all the things that you do. I would love to know a little bit more about the compassion-based emotional regulation techniques, because we know growing up in the United States, we know about the Western traditional medicine. So this little piece, and I grew up with I'm 58. So I think I had gone to doctors that were smoking as they were giving you their things and
Prescriptions. Yeah.
prescriptions, and they were overweight while they were telling us all the things that we needed to do. So please tell us more about this part, because I don't think people have caught up to this part of the medicine.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that question. Compassion Key is a modality that I've only recently started studying in about the last year or so. And it's useful. I use it in a one-to-one format. It's also used by people with more training than I in group formats. Um, and it basically helps bring compassion that you direct your client to apply to anything that they are experiencing as a block or a disturbance. And so many things are related to traumas, if you will, whether it rises to the level of a clinical trauma or not in childhood that we then become unaware of. And by meeting that with compassion and insight, we're able to produce a change, produce a flow, and release some of those blocks. It's a technique that's very powerful, very quick. It's deceptively simple, relatively easy to learn, but like any other art, does have an art to it. But it basically takes from the patient or the client their own feedback to you about what they're perceiving or tuning into, and you then guide them to respond in pretty much the same words they gave you, but with loving compassion. I'm so sorry you felt that you couldn't bring your true gifts to the table because you would be punished if you did so. I'm so sorry. That's sort of an off the cuff example. So yeah, it's something I'm hoping to bring into my practice more. It's not necessarily part of the individualized treatment plan for every patient, but it's one I'm interested in exploring more.
First of all, I love simple ain't easy, right? Simple
That's
is
true.
always simple, but simple is rarely easy because we're really smart human beings. And, because we are these smart human beings, we always create more drama than we need, right?
So true.
Um, and I love that the part of I'm sorry, there's something about someone saying that they're sorry that can heal something when someone else is the one that needed to say, I'm sorry. It's just that I'm sorry
Mm.
that needed to be filled. Michelle, with her hypnotherapy, also does not I'm sorry, but she also does that compassionate care with that
Mm.
piece. So
Mm.
I love seeing the connection between the two of you. So I would love to hear a little bit more. We have this going in with the sixth and seventh chakra. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about how people are coming in and how it ties into the sixth and seventh chakras?
Great, yes. So just a little bit of what might be surprising stats for you and your audience are that 6,000 women in the United States enter menopause every day, and that's about 1.3 million a year. And my study revealed that about 94% of them know very little about their menstrual cycle or what's happening to them. And uh, to the hormone piece, 27% were treated with hormones in 1999 versus 5% today. So there's been a big change and information gap. What they are experiencing is a seismic shift, and we come to a stage in this stage where we need to confront how in tune or not we are with our inner rhythms. And these are rhythms that we basically evolved with as a species over 350,000 years. And that involves things like early morning sun exposure and early morning protein and social connection and rhythms that were in alignment with the planetary rhythms. And over about the last 150 years or so, we've incorporated these huge shifts we haven't had time to evolve with, such as electricity and 24/7 life cycle stresses, et cetera. That in combination with conditional or cultural conditioning, which I believe we all experience, but women especially, teach us to tune out our inner needs, our inner rhythms in order to give and produce and so forth with this new cycle. So, what our bodies are calling for with these symptoms, these very uncomfortable symptoms for many women, over 50% of perimenopause, is hey, it's time to tune in, change your game, tune into the new rhythms, which are really old rhythms, but that you've been overriding can no longer override when your hormones decline. So we go from there into an individualized treatment plan that involves physiological cycling hormone replacement therapy and also those individualized interventions that sort of come up in the process of doing a complete assessment of the patient. So what her needs and goals are, in addition to the clinical symptoms, will help us start to create a plan that entails early morning sunlight and early morning protein and movement and creativity and social. There's a whole, blend, of course, of things that we want to support ourselves and our patients through this phase of life.
I think that's really cool. I think we're still learning more about who our listeners are, but I suspect a fair number of them are in the age range of the kind of things you're talking about, Dr. Theresa. And I know for me, do I feel like I knew everything there was to know? And I am like a researcher. I am like a person who wants to know things. But do I know kind of what all the things are going on with the person's body? No. And I'm also very intrigued, I think partly because I love nature, to think about this time that we're in right now where you're talking about, yeah, the last 150 years we've had the industrial revolution, the technology revolution. We have
Yeah.
people staying up all night and people listening to the news 24/7. And I mean, I see it in my practice where people just, I think, get to be overwhelmed. People are just
Yeah.
overwhelmed by things. And I'm
Yes.
kind of curious how you work with your clients and patients to to manage that overwhelm, either from a physiological standpoint or from a spiritual or mental standpoint.
Mhm. So usually the first fundamental step is sleep, and most people, in fact, across the age range, the most common complaint patients come with is fatigue, just total fatigue. I don't have enough energy. Why? If I'm getting enough sleep, I'm still not rested, or I'm not able to sleep. So this is fundamental to health, and it's also a sign that your circadian rhythm is needing adjusting. So we'll start with that with small steps, and that does involve the early morning sunlight. I try to get people up for sunrise. Some people find that extreme, but if they can, I get them to incrementally work back towards that. And that gives you enough of the full spectrum of sunlight that helps cue your clock, and it will then set the time you're going to wake up naturally the following day. And it, may take a few days. It's surprising how short a time it can take if you do implement this. And it's starting with the wake up time, not so much the sleep time. You don't want to necessarily lie in bed not sleeping for more than 15 minutes or so without getting up, but you fall asleep when you want to, but you get up at the time that we're shooting for. We're incrementally moving back for, and then getting that sunlight. And I mean, in the sun, so not through a window, not through sunglasses, getting sun photons on the retina. And this programs the clock. Um,
I
Early
think
morning
it's good for your
protein.
eyes too.
It can help the eyes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I've read that, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I've read that one of the reasons why folks hypothesize that so many of us are nearsighted and having as many eye challenges at this
right.
moment in history is partly because we don't spend as much time out of doors. And with that, practicing different focal lengths and getting those sun rays and that kind of thing.
Yes, yes, I've seen that too. And really, even if it's shady and even if you're not looking up at the sun, which of course you don't want to stare directly at the sun for long, but even if you're looking at reflected light off greenery or other parts of your field of view, you're still getting those benefits. So very, very important, very interesting people working in that field as well, ophthalmologists. And so I always recommend, in addition to the early morning sun, that you wear blue blocking glasses, and that's what I have on now for working in front of screens. These are yellow toned, but after sunset, I'm wearing orange or red blue blockers so that that excessive blue light, that's a limited and excessively blue spectrum from screens and indoor lights, isn't resetting my clock and affecting other aspects of my health.
Good to
That's
know.
Yes. Yeah. I keep my red and orange blockers right on the bedside table, so they're available to put on if I'm in there at sunset, and if I get up in the middle of the night, I put them on before walking out to the bathroom or what have you. But those are incredibly significant. I've had patients improve just by doing those steps, being intentional about it and consistent, and bringing in the morning protein as well. So those are the two most powerful signals to the body clock, the light and the food timing.
I love that you talk about the inner rhythms, right? Going outside um and the sixth chakra is about inner wisdom and intuition. So really paying attention to what's happening inside you as well as um sensing the symbols around you, right? So what I'd love to hear are some changes that happened with your clients as they started listening to their inner wisdom, or you've set them up on this program and then they started listening to their inner or recognizing that they do have an inner wisdom.
Right. Um, so yes, I've had a number of patients pretty similar that I could almost describe as a composite patient, who were very used to being very high efficiency people. They could go, go, go. They could only sleep for 6 or 7 hours and still be on their game, giving presentations, being sharp, being productive, enjoying that lifestyle and that energy level, who suddenly hit this wall. And it's like I'm sleeping 8 hours, or at least I think I'm in bed for 8 hours, but I wake up unrested and I feel like I'm walking through molasses and I'm starting to lose my train of thought or search for a word. And this is very distressing, to all of us, but particularly women who are in that sort of type A personality or high stress environment. And they, again, sometimes within days to a week, said, wow, I cannot believe what a difference this makes. Clearly, I was much more tired than I even realized, and I forgot what it feels like to be wide awake. Um, So that's also a motivating factor, right? You're not going to slip up too often because you've got that instant feedback about how much worse you feel when you do, which means pretty much staying on the same schedule over the weekend too, not sleeping in on the weekend, and eliminating some other things like alcohol or severely cutting back anyway. Those mess with the hormones. Um, the other piece is, I think that they just started making space for that, needing to tune into what else am I missing or have I forgotten about that I used to like to do or be able to do. And in some cases, it centers around food, because the other huge complaint for perimenopausal women tends to be the meno belly. So that fat accumulating around the center, people start to focus in a lot on food and exercise. So there are different body types, of course, and we can talk about that. And it's not really about dieting and overdoing, which is often a response in the younger years that no longer works. But it's more about adapting a more forgiving approach to yourself and acceptance of what your body needs to change if needed. There's definitely a place for muscle growth and development that a lot of people, especially women, do not do. But it's also tuning into what is your body telling you, and this works better for some than others. But what do we want in terms of color, in terms of seasonal foods? What are our cravings telling us? That can tune into other emotional things as well, or simply physiological things.
I
Craving
have a
chocolate might
question.
be. Mhm.
I have a question, Dr. Teresa. Can you help us, like, you mentioned sort of a composite patient, but can you think of maybe somebody from your practice who showed up with, oh, a litany of of things going on, and what your approach and results were working with that person?
Yes. So Sarah was one patient who pretty much fits what I just said. She ticked most of the boxes, actually. She was a very high functioning executive who had hit this wall, was distressed by it, had some family things going on as well. Typical, midlife sandwich generation, the older generation they're taking care of, and the younger generation not quite out of the nest yet. So things going on there. And she had some weight gain that she was very uncomfortable with. She had a recent divorce, relatively recent divorce, and felt like she needed to get back into the dating game while being off her game and dealing with this excess weight and sort of the symptoms that go along with that. So we did start, of course, we do labs and all of that to verify kind of the hormone levels, et cetera. She already knew she was perimenopausal, having irregular periods. We did implement the bioidentical hormone replacement, which is physiologic cycling hormones that, if a woman is not cycling, will restore the period. If a woman is still cycling, will regulate the cycle and bring it back to regularity, because all those peaks and flows of both estrogen and progesterone are important for multiple bodily functions. And then we implemented the circadian rhythm entrainment, which is actually I was first introduced to by T.S. Wiley, who's the founder, kind of amazing woman, entrepreneur, who came up with the Wiley protocol. And that's this bioidentical physiological replacement therapy. In her two books, she kind of delves into this whole thing about sugar and stress and survival and light and dark and all of it. Just totally recommend these books to everybody. But again, we implemented that starting with sleep and just incremental changes, because you don't want to overwhelm, and there's a lot to do. But she's a driven person anyway. So when she started to get back some energy, the sleep improved and so forth, she was ready to take it on. So we did get some weight loss going with different strength training. I'm not a trainer. I definitely give people some guidelines, but refer them to personal trainers. I recommend people get with somatic practitioners, especially if they're kinesthetic types. So she did that. I don't remember exactly the modality, but there was a somatic practitioner who helped her tune into the body, um, places where tension was gathered. I think she had some back and shoulder stuff. And um, that was very helpful in getting through a lot of the grief she still carried from her divorce and moving on into the dating world. Um,
Oh, I know a little about that. That is a whole nother thing, man. The dating world of today is super high stress. Super high stress. Well, it sounds like you were able to help her make some huge changes. I'm wondering, Dr. Teresa, how did you get into doing this kind of work? Not every medical practitioner decides to incorporate compassion stuff and inner rhythms. And to me, this distinguishes you. It sets you apart. And I'm kind of wondering how did this interest appear in your life and practice?
right. So circadian rhythms were glancingly talked about in medical school very briefly, and it was more in the context of sort of historical physiological information and maybe of interest in severe sleep disorders. But through going through my own approaching perimenopause symptoms, came in contact with T.S. Wiley, basically her program, and practitioners who were using it. And so I was very inspired by her approach. She sort of bridged all of these areas of chronobiology and molecular biology and physiology and talked about those rhythms and how important they were and brought to the market this whole system of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I also got involved with Paul Jaminet's work, and that was, oh gosh, back around 2013, I guess. I was dealing with an autoimmune disease and went to his retreat for retreating and recovery, and he does an incredible job of teaching about circadian rhythms. And of course, it helps to be on a beach for a week where all your meals are cooked and you're absorbing all this information. But that was very profound as well. Um, the other thing that a lot of people don't know, and I tend to be a little cautious about disclosing, is that before I went to medical school, I engaged in clairvoyant training at a psychic institute at a metaphysical church. And so I did deal with energy work, energy healings.
Okay,
Got-
now we're talking. Now you're in the Cynthia and Michelle space.
yes, yes,
Not that you
exactly.
weren't before. Not that
Not
you
that
weren't
you weren't
before.
before, no, but so you were open to some of these kind of higher power, invisible energy kind of stuff even before you hit the halls of med school.
I was. Yes, I was. And I did go on to medical school thinking, well, there's some gaps that I hit when I'm trying to work with energy healing and with especially body healing and what I don't know about medicine. And it was sort of a childhood dream I recuperated or restored with this thrive or curiosity to know more. And of course, I then found that medicine had its own gaps, right? And it didn't necessarily bring everything together, but I do bring them all together. Not necessarily doing energy healings per se, at least not overtly, but my intuition definitely informs how I treat my patients and interact with them. And I'm hoping, as I said, to bring compassion key maybe a little more front and center. We have to see. I'd like to. I'm looking in the new year into bringing more providers in a sort of team model where we could do some of these other programs, maybe on a group community level, something of that sort. Um, so yeah, I definitely love what you two are doing. I've enjoyed listening to your episodes and learning more about your approach to chakras. And Cynthia, you're just so very skilled at summarizing what not only what your guests are doing, but I listened to a couple of your solo interviews that I really enjoyed, where you talked about some of the strategies of intuition and how you use that in your life and others. And I just found it so interesting.
Well, let's be real. You are actually being strategic about your intuition as well, right? Because you know how to approach people and where they are going to, where they're willing to listen and where they're willing to explore, right? So that's the beauty about intuition. And And you allowing people to say, well, what are you attracted to with your food? What are the colors? And for me, intuitively, um, colors, great. It's great for food, but it's also great in your environment. It's on so many levels, right? When you're
Right.
wearing it, it also affects you in a certain way. So, having the inner wisdom in that. So you're also very strategic in your intuition. And what a lot of people don't realize is that that's exactly what they're doing. So I applaud you for the work that you're doing and how you're doing it, and that you have a lot of structure around your work, and there's space for your clients to really get in touch with what they want so that they are wholly healthy, right? WHOLLY, wholly healthy. So really, really excited about that. And while we're at it, what have you got going on or coming up that our clients can get to know you a little bit better and connect with you? Anything like that?
Well, nothing is set in stone yet. I did think about putting some kind of survey up on my website for your audience that will be ready once this is aired. That might help them uh, determine whether what I have to offer is for them and sort of sort some of their symptoms and concerns. I'm working on a workshop that I hope will come to fruition that involves a another coach who's an OBGYN, but who no longer practices medicine, is now a coach for moms, actually, and a musician who plays cello. And they've done some interesting work with presenting to people the emotional regulation aspects of music and the techniques of this coach. And
Also known as sound therapy.
yes, also known as sound
I used to
therapy.
play cello,
Yeah.
so
Oh my
kudos.
goodness,
We love
wow.
cello.
Yeah. I always
You
laugh
would
when
love her.
yeah, when people think about sound therapy, they think about crystal bowls. I'm so down with the crystal bowls. However, you throw uh some 60s music that I have great memories, or get some house club music. That's also sound therapy, right? Because it gets
Yes,
moving, it changes up your blood. So sorry, I didn't mean to
totally.
interrupt you, but
No, no, no,
the sound
that's
It
great.
therapy.
sounds great, Teresa.
Yeah,
Well,
I love
this
what you're doing.
we will be touching base with you again as we go to publish this episode. Thank you so much for appearing today on Mind Power Meets Mystic. Dear listeners, thank you for being here and meeting Dr. Teresa and hanging out for a little while with me, Michelle Walters, and Cynthia Varkevisser. We would love it if you would share the podcast. Give us a rating, give us a review, give us a like on social media. All of your interest is valuable and really helps us to grow our message and our momentum. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Michelle and Cynthia.